Hey everyone, welcome to episode 5 in our Anatomy of a Cookie series, and today we're making this cookie. This is, I would classify this as a cakey cookie. It is one of those cookies that has a lot of loft to it. The butter content's a little bit lower, and if you're someone who likes a cakey cookie, I think this might please you. So this is a pretty basic chocolate chip cookie. For this recipe, you're going to need flour, granulated sugar, brown sugar, butter, vanilla, egg, salt, and baking soda. So I know you want your measurements in cups and teaspoons and tablespoons. All that information is in the recipe, as well as weights and baker's percentage. And with the baker's percentage, you can make this cookie recipe into anything you want super easily. The first step is to weigh the butter right into the mixing bowl. Put the mixing bowl on the stand mixer and start creaming it with the paddle attachment. You just want to get a little bit of air into the butter and make a nice, smooth, homogeneous mixture. Of course, you could do this with a hand blender or a wooden spoon. The amount of mixing that you can do with the hand blender and the wooden spoon will affect the texture of your cookies down the line. Stand mixer really gives you the best texture, I think. Maybe you like it differently. While the butter is having that initial creaming, weigh out the 2 sugars. Now add the sugars to the butter and start creaming that, and cream it together really well. Or not. The amount of creaming that you do will affect the final texture of the cookie. The more creaming that you do adds more air into the batter or the dough, and that air sort of insulates the cookie as it cooks. It gives you better structure internally, gives you a cookie with a little bit of height instead of a lot of spread. And so I guess it depends on what you want from your cookie, and you can play with that amount of creaming. I like to cream it really well though. So while that's creaming together, weigh out the flour, the salt, and the baking soda and just sort of mix that together. Now, with the mixer still running, add in the vanilla. And then the egg. And as soon as you put the egg in, turn the mixture up to high and really whip that in. You want to get it really well incorporated and emulsified. Now, a really important step is make sure you scrape down the mixing bowl. Even if you have a paddle attachment like ours with the rubber scraper on it, it doesn't really scrape the side of the bowl all that well. You should mix it together, scrape it, and then turn it back on. A very important step, often overlooked. Now, as soon as that's all whipped together, turn the mixer down to low and spoon in the flour. And you only want to mix this just until the flour is mixed in. Don't go any further. Don't overmix, because that leads to a really tough cookie. Now, pull it off the stand mixer, and with a rubber spatula, give it a little bit of a mix, and then toss in the chocolate chips and mix those together. And at this point, if your dough is really loose or slack, if it's a really warm day in your kitchen, stick it in the fridge for 15 or 20 minutes and then portion it out. And for portioning, I used a fairly small ice cream scoop. You could use a much larger one if you wanted. Depends what size you want your cookies to be. And of course, a spoon works really well too. Now, I use parchment paper on my baking sheet. I don't know when I started doing that. The cookies never stick. You don't need to put any sort of grease on it or anything like that. You could do it right on the baking sheet. I kind of like the parchment paper though. I'm not really sure why. So at this point, stick it in the oven and bake it. It's going to take 12 to 15 minutes depending on your oven. Once they're done, pull them out and leave them on the baking tray for 2 or 3 minutes just to start cooling down, and then move them to a wire rack to fully cool. So I'm not totally sold on this cookie. I think I like the crispier cookies. Give this a try if you like a cakey cookie and let us know. And if you don't like a cakey cookie, check out one of the other recipes in our Anatomy of a Chocolate Chip Cookie series. Thanks. Thanks for stopping by. See you soon.